Chapter 1008. No matter how much dignity he had, after seeing such a scene, it was all gone. Fortunately, he didn't know that she had seen his debauchery last night. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't be able to maintain his dignity as the head of the family in front of her. No, no, it is our Song clan's honor to welcome such a distinguished guest like young Master Feng. Song clan head said with a smile, looking at the two people standing beside Fengzhou. He asked, I wonder who these two are. My father is the richest man in the Tsang Empire, Ning City's Lord Ning Yuan. I am his son, Ning Lang. Ning Lang slightly raised his chin and introduced himself with a proud face. When everyone in the hall heard this, they were stunned for a moment. This was the first time they had seen someone introduce his father first. I am Duan Yi. Compared to Ning Lang, Duan Yi simply reported his name and did not continue. So it is young Master Ning and young Master Duan. Song clan head smiled and said to the three people, please sit down. After the two people reported their names, a strange look appeared on Song Ming's face. Ning Lang and Duan Yi. Weren't they the other two troublemakers of the Two-Star Academy? It was said that these two people were the same as him. They did not like to go to the academy to cultivate. The former liked to make money and was a complete money grubber, while the latter was arrogant and often acted recklessly. After sitting down, Fengzhou looked around at the people in the hall and showed an apologetic smile. It is really abrupt, I came uninvited, it seems that I have disturbed everyone. How about we come again another day? Hearing this, Duan Yi, who was sitting below Fengzhou, slightly twitched the corner of his mouth. He took a sip of the tea served by the servant to hide the expression on his face. Ning Lang was drinking tea. When he heard this, he could not help but choke and cough twice. Cough, cough. He glanced at Fengzhou and saw that his expression was indifferent, his manners natural and unrestrained, carrying the appearance of a gentleman. He could not help but secretly mutter in his heart, pretending, really pretending. Ha ha ha, no, no, it is just some trivial matters in the house that have been dealt with. Song family head glanced at the people in the hall, and then his eyes fell on Fengzhou. He asked, I wonder what brings young Master Feng here today. Oh, I'm here to take Song Ming away. Her gaze fell on Song Ming. At the same time, she moved her hand and took out a token, asking someone to pass it to Patriarch Song. Today, I came here as an instructor of the Two-Star Academy, and Song Ming is the same as the two people beside me. For the next year, he will be under my care. Hearing this, Song Ming stared at him in shock. Even the other people in the hall were astonished. The Lu clan's patriarch and the Lu clan's old ancestor, as well as the two people from the Song clan, all knew about Fengzhou's identity as the ghost doctor, but they did not think that today he would come here as a mentor. When did the Two-Star Academy become so capable? Even the ghost doctor could be invited as a teacher. After looking at the identity jade token, Patriarch Song looked at his father and the two people from the Lu clan and nodded. This is indeed the identity jade token of a Two-Star Academy's instructor. His voice paused for a moment, as he looked at Fengzhou and smiled. Ming, it can be taught by young Master Feng. This is exactly what we want. How about this? Young Master Feng can stay in the house and rest for a day or two, so that we can properly take care of him. Chapter 1009. Seeing this, the Song family head didn't force him. He smiled and said, all right, I'll have him come as soon as possible. I won't let young Master Feng wait too long. At the same time, he returned the jade token to Fengzhou. At this moment, the Song family's ancestor stood up and cupped his hands. Young Master Feng, I'll have to trouble you to teach my naughty grandson. You're too kind. She stood up and looked at the third brother. Her lips curled up as she said to everyone, we won't stay for long. Please. At this moment, the Lu family's ancestor pulled his son forward and smiled at the dazzling red-clothed youth. He bowed and said gratefully, this old man represents the Lu family in thanking young Master Feng. He didn't say it clearly, but everyone in the hall understood what he meant. He wasn't thanking him for teaching Song Ming, but for sending Bai Lian's information and evidence to the Liu family. He wanted them to know that their daughter's death wasn't simple. When Feng Zhou saw this, his eyes flashed. He didn't avoid the bow and said, "I didn't do anything. There's no need to be like this." With that, he looked at Duan Yi and the others. The two of them also stood up and said their goodbyes. "We'll send young Master Feng off." As they spoke, they personally escorted them out. After watching them leave through the main gate of the Song mansion, the four of them looked at each other, then walked back into the mansion and returned to the main hall. "Ancestor, who is this young Master Feng?" one of the elders asked in confusion. Seeing the four of them treat him like this, the youth's status wasn't ordinary. "We'll talk about this later. First, have someone bring Miss Bai here." The Song family's ancestor said in a deep voice and ordered two people to bring her to the dungeon. Everyone in the hall looked at each other. After a while, Bai Lian, whose hands and feet were covered in blood, was brought in by two cultivators. After the cultivators left, aside from the Song family's ancestor, the family head, the elders, and Bai Lian's two sons, there was only Song Ming. On the Liu family's side were the Liu family's ancestor, patriarch, and a few elders. At this moment, all of their gazes landed on Bai Lian. When they looked at his old face, their hearts were filled with shock and they felt even more solemn. "Madam Bai, what evil things have you done these past few days? Hurry up and tell the truth." The Song clan's patriarch bellowed, his sharp gaze fixed on Bai Lian below. It was almost certain that this Bai Lian had offended the ghost doctor. However, what had she done? That was why the ghost doctor was so angry. She had to vent her anger. I did not. That her voice was weak as she lay on the ground, unable to even get up. Seeing the ruthless eyes of the Song family head, her heart became even colder. She had long known that men were unreliable. She had long known that men were all like this. However, it was only when she personally experienced it that her heart ached. Only then did she know what kind of despair was like. Bang! Still not going to say it? Do you think you can hide what you did? If you hadn't offended someone you shouldn't have, would you have aged overnight? The ancestor angrily slammed the table, making a loud sound. His angry voice was filled with thunder and fire. He wanted to kill her with one palm so that she would not be disgraced. Chapter 10:10. However, as soon as she spoke, she was slapped. Still not going to speak? Or do you want to drag your two sons down with you? Let them lose their footing in the Song family. The ancestor's face darkened as he shouted sternly. He stared at the crying Bai Lian and said, "If you don't tell us the whole story, even your two sons will be implicated by you." Hearing this, Bai Lian's crying stopped. She looked up at the ancestor in horror and said, "This has nothing to do with them, nothing to do with them." "Then tell us in detail." The ancestor snorted and stared at her sharply. I'll speak, that she cried and shouted, her heart filled with regret. She told him about how her youngest son was bullied and no one stood up for him. In the end, she cried and said, "I had people poison them. It's just a latent poison that won't take effect for a while. I thought that after they left here, even if they died somewhere else, they wouldn't suspect us. But I didn't expect that the people I sent out still haven't returned." Hearing this, everyone in the hall was speechless. Just because of a fight between a few youths, she wanted to take their lives. How vicious was her heart. "You brought this upon yourself." The Liu family's old man stared at her and said, "Do you know who that person is? You poisoned him. You're courting death. But if you didn't court death, how would we know the truth of that year? Speaking of which, you brought this upon yourself." As soon as he finished speaking, he looked at the ancestor of the Song family and said, "Now that we know the truth, how should we deal with this woman? Tell us." The ancestor of the Song family looked at his son and said, "She's your woman. You deal with her yourself." Hearing this, the Song family's head pondered. He looked at the old woman below. On that wrinkled face, he couldn't find the slightest bit of familiarity from the past. He sighed and said, "Madame Bai's heart is vicious. She even poisoned the madam. Her crime is unforgivable. Since she gave birth to 2 sons for the Song family, let's leave her corpse intact and give her a cup of poisoned wine." Don't, father, don't kill my mother, don't." The 3rd son begged in horror. He kowtowed to the ground one by one, and the sound of the kowtowing echoed clearly in the hall. "When she killed my mother, I was only 5 years old. She made my mother suffer so much pain and suffering before she died. A cup of poisoned wine is too easy for her." Song Ming said in a gloomy voice, not feeling pity for them at all. Who caused him to lose his mother when he was young? Who wanted to occupy his mother's position? Who was it that had enjoyed the glory and wealth of the Song family for so many years? The word death was too light. It was not enough to vent the hatred in his heart. Bai Lian was startled by Song family head's words and looked at him absent-mindedly. Under her gaze, Song family head thought of the sweet words between the two of them. His eyes flashed and he looked away. Seeing this, Bai Lian smiled in despair. If a man abandons you, then he really abandons you. All these years, even though she had raised some people by her side, at a time like this, they were still unable to save her. She knew that she was going to die without a doubt. However, in her despair, she felt even more unwillingness. She stopped crying and asked in a hoarse voice, "Who are those people? Even if you want me to die, you should at least let me know the reason behind my death. Let me know who I was defeated by." Chapter 10-11. Hearing this, the eyes of the other people in the hall also fell on the Lu clan ancestor and the Song clan ancestor. It seems that only the 4 of them knew the identity of the red-robed youth. Seeing their eyes looking at them, waiting for their answer, the Lu clan ancestor did not speak, but picked up his tea and drank it. "Who is this person? Let the Song clan people tell them. You have heard of his reputation, he is the famous ghost Dr. Fingzhou." Song clan head said, looking at Bai Lian on the ground, "You were destroyed in his hands, you are not wronged." "Ghost doctor, he is actually a ghost doctor." She muttered in disbelief. The ghost doctor was good at treating poisons. For her to end up like this, who can she blame? She can only blame herself. After hearing the clan head's words, the other people in the hall were also shocked. That red-robed youth was actually a ghost doctor? They had heard of the ghost doctor's name, and also knew that in the clans of the major forces, the people in charge had a portrait of the ghost doctor. It was no wonder that their clan head and the Lu clan ancestor recognized the ghost doctor. However, if he was a ghost doctor, he was also an instructor of the 2-star academy. Did he come here because of Song Ming? For a time, everyone's heart was different. They were shocked and surprised, especially the Song clan people. They felt that this was a good opportunity to build a friendship with the ghost doctor. Song clan head called out, and 2 shadow guards flashed out from the dark. He took out a bottle of medicine and handed it over. His voice was cold and ruthless. "Give this to the 2nd madam." "Yes." The 2 shadow guards replied, and after receiving the medicine, they saw the 2nd and 3rd madam rushing over and hugging the Song clan head's thigh. Father, don't kill mother, don't kill my mother, father, don't. The 2 of them cried and begged, but Patriarch Song remained indifferent. He put his hands behind his back and looked outside. He shouted, "Men! Take the 2nd young master and the 3rd young master back to the west courtyard. Without my order, they are not allowed to leave the west courtyard even half a step." "Yes." Several guards outside answered, and came in to take the 2 away, and brought them to the west courtyard. "No, father, don't. The cries of the two gradually faded away until they could no longer be heard. At this time, the two shadow guards in the hall had already poured the poison into Bai Lian's mouth. In front of the people of the Lu clan and the Song clan, they poured the poison down her throat. Song family head looked at him, his eyes were dark, and no one could see his emotions. There was no need to mention the others. All of them had indifferent expressions and didn't care about this life at all. Bai Lian was just a woman. In a large family, there were many ways to make a person disappear. Every method could shut the mouths of the people outside. Song Ming watched as Bai Lian was forced to drink the poison. He watched as she convulsed on the ground in pain. He watched as blood seeped out of her 7 orifices. He watched as she wailed and breathed her last. Poison. It was a highly toxic poison. The poison took effect very quickly. It took less than half an incense stick to burn. Even if the medicine was somewhat torturous, half an incense stick's time passed in the blink of an eye. She could not say that she had suffered much. Take her down and bury her, Song family head said in a deep voice. He waved his hand and motioned for the guards to carry her out. After the guards carried the person on the ground out, everyone in the hall turned their gazes to Song Ming. They looked at him with anticipation, excitement, and agitation. Chapter 10-12. Hearing his father's words, Song Ming only glanced at him, then said to the people beside him, "Grandfather, uncle, I'll go with you to pay respects to mother." All right, let's go." The two nodded in response, revealing joyful expressions. They cupped their hands to the Song family. "We'll take our leave first." As they spoke, they left together with Song Ming. When the Song family saw this, they all looked at each other, but did not stop them, because they knew that Song Ming had never been close to the family head since he was young. Moreover, how did he find out about this matter? The relationship between father and son would become even more strained. Forget it, let him be. With old man Lu and the others watching over him, nothing will happen. When he leaves with the ghost doctor, we'll just have to explain it to them. As the Song family's ancestor spoke, he shook his head and walked out with his hands behind his back. The rest of the matters would be left to them. He had already retired for many years, and no longer wanted to care about the matters of the family. Seeing that everyone had left, the Song family head pursed his lips and stood quietly for a while before walking out. This matter seemed to be over, but it was not yet. If it was not handled properly, the Song family would never have a day of peace. Bai Lian was already dead, and he still had to think about the most appropriate arrangements for his second and third sons. As for his eldest son, Song Ming, he had the Lu family to protect him, his father to protect him, and now there was the ghost doctor. He could not interfere even if he wanted to. However, with the ghost doctor, Duan Yi, and Ning Lang, he did not have to worry. On the other side, after leaving the Song family, Feng Zhou and the other two found a restaurant to sit down and eat a table full of dishes. There was no one else in the private room, so after Duan Yi and Ning Lang looked at each other, they asked, "Feng Zhou, what did you do last night? Tell us about it." They were really curious. Why did he not have to do anything himself to make the Song family fall into chaos? Feng Zhou glanced at the two of them and smiled, then simply told them what he did last night. "Ah, aging overnight. There's actually such a medicine?" Ning Lang looked at him in surprise. "I thought there were only things like the beauty pill. I didn't expect there to be medicine for aging too." Thinking about it, it was really quite scary. If they offended him, who knew when they would be drugged with some strange medicine? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. He was shocked by his previous actions. He actually didn't care about the consequences and sold him out before he even knew what kind of person he was. Thinking about it, he was already being merciful to him. How much longer do we have to wait here? Will Song Ming come? Duan Yi asked. He didn't have any confidence in Song Ming. Would that person go to the Hell Mountain Range with them? Yes. Fengzhou took a sip of wine and slowly lowered his gaze. Hearing this, the two of them looked at each other and didn't say anything. However, to their surprise, in the evening, before the sky turned dark, they returned to the inn and sat idly on the first floor when they saw Song Ming slowly walk in. Other than Fengzhou, Duan Yi and Ning Lang were surprised to see him again. They didn't expect to see him again so soon. I'm here. Song Ming walked up to Fengzhou and said. Fengzhou looked at the young man in front of him and asked directly, We plan to go to the Hell Mountain Range. Are you interested? Chapter 10:13. Like them, it was one thing to be interested in going with him, but if they weren't, they would still have to go with him. However, he would probably knock them out and carry them away. Hearing that it was the Hell Mountain Range, a hint of surprise flashed across Song Ming's eyes, but he didn't ask any more questions. He just nodded and said, I'll go with you. He didn't want to stay in this family anymore. Since that woman was dead, he should go out and learn more. Have you said goodbye to your family? Fengzhou asked again. I've paid my respects to my mother, and my grandfather and the others know. That's all. Hearing this, she nodded and said, Have a seat. We'll leave after eating. Thus, the four of them sat around the table and ate. After the meal, they didn't stay long and directly left the city. Then, they flew on their swords and headed to their next destination. They're gone. In the Song family, when the Song family's patriarch and patriarch heard the news of their departure, it was already a few hours later. Yes, they're gone. Patriarch Song nodded and sighed in his heart. It's good that they're gone. It's good for them to let them experience the outside world. Moreover, with the ghost doctor around, there won't be any major problems that we need to worry about. As the patriarch spoke, he glanced at him and said, You have to pay more attention to your two concubine sons. I want to send them to the academy to cultivate and study, and let them stay in the academy for a few years. Patriarch Song told him his plan. That's good. You can arrange this yourself. With that, the patriarch walked out. A day later, in the evening. Somewhere on the mountain path, Fengzhou and the others were not resting by the mountain path. In front of them, the fire was roasting the game they hunted and the fish they caught in the stream. You guys eat these first. I'll go catch some more. Song Ming said. After finishing a fish, he saw that there was only one left, so he got up and walked towards the stream. Song Ming, a dozen more fish should be enough. Ning Lang shouted and tore off a piece of meat to eat. He stood up again and said, Forget it, I'll go help catch some more. You guys eat first, don't burn them. Fengzhou and Duan Yi sat at the side and ate. They also took out wine from the space to drink. Between the grass, the breeze, and the sunset, they were relaxed and at ease. We'll rest here tonight. We'll set up a few tents later, Fengzhou said to Duan Yi as she tore a piece of barbecued meat to eat. Yes. Duan Yi responded. As he roasted the meat, he took the cooked meat and placed it to the side before adding some firewood. As night fell, they set up 4 small tents and sprinkled some medicinal powder on the outside of the tents to prevent snakes and insects from getting close. As the night deepened, the 4 people who had drunk wine fell into a deep sleep. It wasn't until late at night that they were awakened by the faint sound of swords clashing against each other. You're disturbing my sleep in the middle of the night, Ning Lang muttered, then turned around and went back to sleep. Duan Yi and Song Ming, on the other hand, woke up. After exiting the small tent, the two of them looked at each other and went in search of the sound of fighting. As for Fengzhou, although she heard some unpeaceful sounds, she did not pay attention to it. There were many unpeaceful things in this world. She would not care about those irrelevant things. Tun Yun was guarding outside the small tent, so she could rest at ease. Chapter 10:14. It was a few black-clothed men who were chasing after two young women. However, the two women were protected by a few guards and an old woman by their side. Even so, they had suffered quite a few injuries. Their clothes were torn by tree branches as they ran, revealing their snow-white skin. Seeing the exposed skin of the two beautiful women, Song Ming's eyes lit up. However, he said to Duan Yi with a serious expression, seeing injustice on the road, "Don't you think we should draw our swords and help?" Duan Yi glanced at him and said coldly, "I don't know them, so I can't be bothered to save those two women." As he spoke, he turned around and was about to leave, but who knew that he would grab his hand. "Don't go. If they were two weak women, as men, how could we not save them? How could we be men? Go go go." Before Duan Yi could regain his senses, he was pulled forward and heard him shout, "Let go of those two ladies." It turned out that when the few guards saw that they couldn't beat those people and that they were injured, they actually abandoned the two women and the old woman and escaped. Just as the few black-clothed men grabbed the two women, Song Ming pulled Duan Yi and jumped out. Duan Yi's baby face darkened. He, who did not plan to fight, was pulled forward. Seeing the swords in the black-clothed men's hands coming towards him, he could only grit his teeth and glare at Song Ming. Holding his sword, he attacked the black-clothed men. Those black-clothed men were at the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. If it was 1-against-1, Duan Yi would not be afraid. However, when they attacked together, he was unable to withstand it. With a slight carelessness, a few small bloody wounds appeared on his body. He dodged in a sorry state and looked for Song Ming. However, when he saw him, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. "Ladies, are you all right? Don't worry, with me here, those people can't hurt you." "Sigh, look, my hand is bleeding." Song Ming supported one of the women and talked about her wound, but his eyes were looking at her faintly discernible chest. "Young master, thank you for saving our lives." The woman he was supporting spoke in a soft and timid voice. Her beautiful face was pale, perhaps because of the shock. Her eyes were filled with tears, and her timid appearance made one feel pity for her. "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. I'm here. It'll be fine." He patted the woman's back and pulled her into his arms to comfort her, taking advantage of the situation. It was unknown whether the woman was shy or afraid. She curled up in his arms and did not move away. Even the other woman who was being supported by the old woman did not find this scene inappropriate. She looked at Song Ming with the same gratitude as the old woman. "Song Ming. You pervert. Come and help me." The enraged Duan Yi cursed and swatted away the sword of a Foundation establishment cultivator. While he was retreating, he shouted loudly. His voice was filled with anger. Almost as soon as he spoke, even Feng Zhou and Ning Lang, who were sleeping in the tent at the foot of the mountain path, heard him. "Don't worry, I'll go help. It'll be fine. With me here, I won't let anything happen to you." When he saw the beauties, it was as if he had changed into a different person. There were only two beautiful women in his eyes. Even his voice and expression became gentle and affectionate. He almost angered Duan Yi to death. "Song Ming. I'm coming, I'm coming." Chapter 10-15. The black-clothed men saw that the strength of the two of them had increased greatly after joining forces. If they were to continue fighting, they might end up with both sides suffering injuries. Thus, one of them raised his hand to signal and quickly retreated. He stared at Duan Yi and Song Ming and said, "You brought this trouble upon yourselves. Let's go." Asked for trouble. A trace of doubt appeared on Duan Yi's baby face. What did he mean? Just as he was thinking, he heard Song Ming's voice. "You can't find me and you're running. Don't run if you have the guts. All right, let's go back." Duan Yi said as he put away his sword and walked back. He didn't even look at the two women. "Miss, we're staying in front." Why don't you come with us? We have a small tent over there to rest. It's still dark, so it's not good to let you run around here. Song Ming. Duan Yi glared at him. Don't bring back people you don't know. They're just two women. They're not dangerous people. Oh right, this is. Song Ming looked at the old woman and asked. This is our grandmother. Because of the great change in our family, we escaped with our grandmother. If it wasn't for our grandmother protecting us all the way, I'm afraid. At this point, the two women covered their faces and wept softly. The beauty wept softly. Her face was covered by a veil, and her eyes were drooping with tears. It made Song Ming's heart soften. He wished he could hug the beauty and comfort her. Duan Yi saw that he couldn't move after seeing the two beautiful women. He couldn't help but snort and turn back with a flick of his sleeve. He couldn't be bothered to care about him. Since he wanted to bring people back, then let him. At the small tent, Ning Lang rubbed his eyes and poked his head out. When he saw Duan Yi return, he asked, "Where did you go in the middle of the night?" Ask Song Ming. Duan Yi snorted and sat down in front of the small tent to treat a few small wounds. Seeing this, Ning Lang was startled. He looked back and saw Song Ming supporting a woman. Behind him, there was an old woman and a beautiful woman. When he saw them, he was stunned. Where did the beauty come from in the middle of the night? Don't tell me it's transformed from a spirit at night. He muttered and glanced at Fengzhou's tent. Seeing that he had not come out and that only the little beast was standing guard there, he could not help but shrink back. No matter where he came from, it had nothing to do with him. He should just take care of himself. Therefore, after entering the small tent, he directly pulled the quilt over his head. When they arrived at the small tents, they saw a small beast guarding outside one of the tents. There was no one inside. On the other side, there was a little fatty who had just shrunk inside. He didn't look very old. This is my tent. You can rest in my tent first. Song Ming enthusiastically gave up his tent and looked at the wounds on the two women. He took out some medicine and said with pity, "You must be in a lot of pain to be injured like this, right? Do you want me to help you apply some medicine?" "There's no need for that, young master. I'll help them apply the medicine." The old woman took the medicine from his hand and helped the two of them into the small tent, isolating Song Ming from the two women. Seeing this, he touched his nose. When he saw Duan Yi sitting outside and bandaging his wounds, he walked forward. "Duan Yi, are you injured? Do you want me to help you bandage your wounds?" Before he finished speaking, he saw Duan Yi get up and walk towards the small tent. "Just take care of the beauties you saved. I won't trouble you." Chapter 10:16. As he spoke, he turned around and glanced at the tent. Who knew that the people inside wouldn't talk to him? He could only return to his tent and poke his head out to chat with the two women. In the middle of the night, he didn't rest. Instead, he learned of their names and experiences from the two women. When dawn arrived, when the first strand of sunlight fell on the grass, the sounds of people waking up could be heard from several small tents. During this night, Ning Lang woke up one after another and tidied up their tents. However, there was still no movement in Fengzhou's tent. After tidying up, the two of them glanced at the two women and the old woman, then walked to the stream to wash their faces. When Song Ming saw this, he said to the three of them, "It's okay. They're just like that. I have some dry food here. Eat some." As he spoke, he took out some dry food and gave it to them. It was not until another hour later that Fengzhou, who had woken up, walked out of the room. She was dressed in a red dress that was as dazzling as fire. At this moment, she still looked a little sleepy. After she walked out of the tent, she glanced at the three people, then calmly looked away and walked to the stream to wash her face. "Fengzhou, Song Ming brought two women back last night. There was an old woman with him. Ning Lang leaned close to Fingzhou and said. He turned around and glanced at the tent. I think those two women don't look very proper. They didn't even wear their clothes properly. As he spoke, he seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly added, I wasn't looking at him randomly. I just saw that Song Ming was staring at him so intently that he couldn't even blink. I felt that the two women were doing it on purpose. They said that they were refugees, but from what I saw, they looked like prostitutes. Hearing this, Fingzhou couldn't help but smile. All right, don't talk nonsense. We're not going with them anyway. Yes, I also think that we shouldn't go with them. He nodded in agreement and got up to walk back. He shouted to Song Ming, pack up. We're leaving. Okay. Song Ming responded and began to pack up the tent. He put everything back into his chinquan bag and came to Fingzhou's side. Fingzhou, are we flying on swords? Who's going to bring them along with me? After washing her face and gently patting her Fingzhou, she got up and looked back at Song Ming. Who said we were going to bring them along? Did I agree to that? Hearing this, Song Ming was startled. But, they. I don't want to know what happened to them. Since you saved them last night, I won't say anything more. Let them leave on their own. We don't allow them to follow us here. I won't let them follow me. We'll just split up when we reach the next town. Isn't this considered sending Buddha to the west? Not interested. She walked past him and stopped in front of the three people. You can go now. You don't have to worry about encountering any danger in broad daylight. Don't you think so? His cold eyes fell on the three of them. His voice was indifferent and cold, sounding as if he was cold-blooded. When the three of them saw Fingzhou, they were slightly shocked. Especially when his cold and icy gaze landed on them, they couldn't help but lower their heads, avoiding his gaze and the might of his gaze. Chapter 10:17. Song Ming stepped forward when he saw this. Fingzhou, we're not in a hurry anyway, so let's take them along. Look, they're still injured. They're two weak women and an old woman. Who knows what they'll encounter on the way if we let them travel on their own. Yes, young master. I've brought my two granddaughters and don't leave the house often. Please take us with you. The old woman begged. The two women by her side gazed at Fingzhou with tears in their eyes. Young master. The corners of Fingzhou's lips curled as he glanced at the three of them and Song Ming, who was looking at him eagerly. All right. I'll take you with me. Song Ming was stunned when he heard this. He originally wanted to say more, but he never expected Qin Shi to agree so quickly. Although he felt that it was slightly strange, he didn't think too much about it. Instead, he happily told the two women not to worry. Duan Yi and Ning Lang's eyes flickered slightly. Compared to Song Ming, they'd spent more time with Fingzhou. Throughout their journey, they knew that he wasn't someone who changed his mind easily. There was definitely a problem with him suddenly changing his mind. However, he didn't say anything, so they just watched silently. As a result, Fingzhou got Duan Yi and Ning Lang to help Song Ming take one person each. She took Tun Yun and sat on the flying feather while the others followed behind on their swords. They flew very quickly on their swords, but the three people at the back couldn't take it anymore and had to stop to rest after flying for a while. As a result, they slowed down. They could have reached the next town in a day's time, but they had to stop and travel. In the blink of an eye, it was evening, but they still hadn't reached the next town. At this moment, the woman that Song Ming was carrying suddenly fainted, giving Song Ming a fright. He hurriedly shouted to the people in front of him and brought the woman down on his sword, landing on the ground. Fingzhou glanced back from the flying feather. It was a forest with very few people below. However, she followed them down when she saw that they were all heading down. Fingzhou, take a look at her. I don't know why she suddenly fainted. Song Ming supported the woman in his arms with a worried expression. He should be injured and tired from the journey. It's fine. As Fingzhou spoke, he looked around and said, "It's getting late. Why don't we rest here for the night before leaving?" "Okay, let's pick up some branches and see if there are any wild animals around. We'll hunt some for dinner," Duan Yi and Ning Lang said. They nodded at Fingzhou and left together. Fingzhou smiled and watched them leave. Only then did he say to Song Ming, "Help her to the tree over there. I'll go see if there's a water source nearby. Young Master Feng, let me accompany you." Another woman spoke, looking at Fingzhou with shyness in her eyes. When her beautiful eyes stared at him, there seemed to be a hint of charm flowing in them, making her look extremely mesmerizing. "Sure." She nodded with a smile. She left Tun Yun to keep watch while she headed in another direction with the beautiful woman. The old woman watched them leave before glancing at Song Ming. An indescribable light appeared in her eyes, but she covered her face and sobbed sorrowfully, "My poor granddaughter." Chapter 10:18. Ah! Fengzhou reached out to support her. His clear eyes looked at the woman he was supporting and said calmly, "Be careful." The handsome young man's expression was filled with indifference. Even though his clear eyes carried a sense of distance, the space between his brows revealed a strand of evil charm. Especially his clear eyes, at this moment, they were deep like the ocean and extremely mysterious. It caused others to be unknowingly trapped within them and be unable to extricate themselves for a long time, looking at the charming smile on the young man's lips, looking at the slight curve of his good-looking lips, and that expression that was not a smile, with a devilish charm, actually made her heart skip a beat, and she had a moment of absent-mindedness. Young Master Feng. There should be very few people walking in this forest. There are a lot of weeds and the ground is uneven. Be careful. He spoke slowly, his voice indifferent and calm. But in the woman's ears, she could hear the concern in his voice. Looking at this indifferent and aloof young man, the woman's heart was filled with a trace of complexity. When they first met, he gave them a dangerous feeling. But after observing him for a while, they felt that he was just an ordinary aloof young man. But when there was no one around, he showed a charming and wanton attitude. He was like a beautiful and deadly poppy. Even though he knew it was dangerous, he still made people want to get close to him. Seeing him let go of her and walk forward, she bit her lip and followed him again. The two of them found a source of water. It was a spring in the forest. The spring water that gushed out from the cracks in the rocks was not big, forming a small pool around it. The spring water flowed downhill, and the water was very sweet. Fengzhou filled some water and washed his face. Just as he was about to stand up, he saw the woman next to him take off her outer clothes, revealing the dudu inside. Her beautiful eyes were looking at him shyly. "Young Master Feng, can you please help me take a look at the wound on my back?" Hearing this, Fengzhou's face was full of hesitation. His gaze swept over her body again, and he said hesitantly, "This isn't very good, is it? After all, men and women are not supposed to touch each other. This is against the rules." Seeing Fengzhou's gaze sweep over her body, the woman puffed out her chest, feeling proud and happy at the same time. She knew that there was no man who wasn't lustful. It doesn't matter. Young Master Feng isn't someone else. As she spoke, she lowered her eyes slightly. Her bashful appearance was like a blooming flower, extremely beautiful. "Is that so? All right then." She reluctantly walked forward. When she arrived behind the woman, the reluctance on her face disappeared without a trace. The corners of her lips curled up into a faint smile, and she stretched out a finger to gently stroke the woman's back. "This injury is not serious. After applying medicine, the redness and swelling have disappeared. It should scab and fall off in a day or two." Her voice was faint, and there was a hint of laziness in it. She watched as her finger gently brushed past the woman's back. The woman's delicate body trembled slightly, and she moaned softly. Hearing that soft moan, Fingjiu raised his eyebrows. He saw her turn around with her hand slightly tugging at the outer garment hanging at her waist. He didn't know how she did it, but the bellyband hanging in front of her chest suddenly fell off. For a moment, boundless spring scenery leaped into his eyes. Ah! Chapter 10:19. Seeing her exposed body, shouldn't he hurriedly avert his gaze? Why was he staring at her exposed body? She saw that the red-clothed youth's gaze was fixed on her exposed body. That gaze was sizing her up and admiring her. That kind of unrestrained gaze made her feel uncomfortable. Just as she was about to pull up her clothes, she thought of the youth in front of her. Thus, her beautiful eyes shyly glared at Fingjiu. Young Master Feng. Cough. Fingjiu coughed lightly before averting his gaze. She had the mentality that it would be a waste if she didn't look. With this look, she really didn't say that this woman's figure was exceptionally good. Her skin was as white as snow. She didn't need to touch it to know that it was incomparably smooth. That waist was slender and soft, even slimmer than a water snake's waist. And that chest, if it were a man, seeing this erotic and hot scene, even if he didn't get angry, he would still have a nosebleed. If this woman wanted to seduce a man, it was really impossible to guard against her. She took off her clothes so easily. She couldn't help but be curious. If it were the dissolute and lecherous Song Ming here, would he directly pounce on her? Put on your clothes. I'll wait for you before I go. As she spoke, she didn't wait for the woman to speak and turned to walk forward. Seeing this, the woman was stunned and almost bit off a mouthful of silver teeth. Idiot who doesn't know how to appreciate romance. She cursed in a low voice. She had already taken off her clothes, but he still turned around and left. It really angered her to death. She put on her clothes again and calmed her angry mood before walking forward. In front, Song Ming was taking advantage of her in the name of taking care of her. In addition, the woman who had woken up was intentionally or unintentionally teasing him, making Song Ming unable to take a step forward. But even so, he was only taking advantage of her and feasting his eyes. Just like now, this woman who had woken up was leaning in his arms with both hands around his waist. She shyly said that she was willing to give her body to him. At the same time, when she reached out to untie his belt, Song Ming was so frightened that he pushed her to the ground and quickly walked out of the small tent. Phew, that scared me to death. After exiting the small tent, he lightly exhaled and patted his chest. He turned around and saw that the woman didn't follow him. Only then did he relax. Although he was a bit of a pervert, he only liked to take advantage of what was in his hands. He wasn't interested in a real fight like this. In the past few years, other than his rebellious mentality and the despicable things he did outside to tarnish his father's reputation, his reputation as a lecherous man did indeed have a background. It was just that he wanted to take advantage of beautiful women whenever he saw one. Other than that, he didn't do anything out of line. After all, he still had a scale in his heart and knew what he could do and what he couldn't do. However, with his reputation as a womanizer, no one would believe that the dissolute and lecherous young master of the Song family would often visit brothels. Even when he was drunk and lying on a beauty's bed, he was still a virgin. That's right. It's too embarrassing to tell others about it. It's better to keep it to yourself. You can't tell anyone about it. When the old woman outside saw him come out, her gaze couldn't help but change slightly. She stepped forward and asked with concern, "Young Master Song, what's wrong?" Chapter 10:20. What did you catch? Pheasants. Come, let me pluck their feathers. He stepped forward and took the pheasants they caught, then walked to the side to deal with them. When Ning Lang and Duan Yi saw this, they glanced at him but didn't say anything. The two of them used branches to light a fire and set up a rack, preparing to roast the pheasants later. The old woman glanced at them and entered the small tent first. After a while, a few pheasants were roasted on the rack. Fengjiu and the woman walked back from the other side. Oh. We actually caught pheasants. She sat down by the fire and looked at the pheasants roasting on the rack with a greedy expression. We were going to catch a rabbit, but the rabbit ran too fast and disappeared in a flash. In the end, we only caught a few pheasants. It should be enough for one night. As Ning Lang spoke, he looked at Fengjiu and asked, "Are you hungry? I still have some dry food. Do you want to fill your stomach first?" "No need. We'll just eat roast chicken later." She waved her hand. From the corner of her eye, she saw the old woman walk out of the small tent. "Young masters, an old woman like me can't help much, but I can still cook. How about this? You guys rest for a while. I'll take care of the roast chicken." She smiled kindly at them. Hearing this, Song Ming said without thinking, "How can that be? You're old, so you should rest. We'll take care of these trivial matters. You just have to sit and wait for us to finish roasting." Seeing this, the smile on the old woman's lips stiffened, but she didn't say anything else. She just nodded and sat down. Fengjiu smiled and also sat down. He chatted with Ning Lang and Duan Yi. I looked around. There's a spring not far away. The water there is very sweet. Do you want to drink some on the way? We also picked some wild fruits when we came back. They're sour and very appetizing. Here, have a taste. Ning Lang handed over the small fruit in his hand and distributed the rest to the others. On the other side, Song Ming was in charge of roasting the pheasants. The old woman and the woman sat beside him and watched. They added firewood from time to time while chatting and laughing with Song Ming. On the other side, Fengjiu, Duan Yi, and Ning Lang were also talking. From time to time, they would pay attention to the people over there. She used a branch to write the words, "Act according to circumstances," on the ground, then erased it. She used the branch to draw on the ground casually to kill time. As night fell, the smell of roast chicken, Song Ming called them. "It's time to eat, come over here, calm." But the woman Young Master Song said that he was a little tired. I saw that he was feeling better, so I came out to let him rest inside. The woman said and sat down beside Fengjiu. A faint fragrance filled the air. Ning Lang, who was sitting beside Duan Yi, was about to stand up with his hands on his head when he collapsed. When Fengjiu sat down next to the woman, she turned her head slightly to look at her. When she saw Duan Yi and Ning Lang fall down, she frowned. "You." She fell down as well and fainted. After they collapsed, the three people stood up. The two women looked at the old woman. "Eldest senior sister, didn't you say that they're not easy to deal with? Look, they're still our prey." Chapter 10:21. It was a woman who looked to be in her 20s. Her face was coquettish and seductive. She no longer hunched her shoulders and bent her waist. After tearing off her mask, she did not look old at all except for her inconspicuous old clothes. She glanced at the people on the ground, her gaze sweeping past Duan Yi and Ning Lang before landing on the youth in red. "I don't know about the others, but this one called Fengjiu gives me a dangerous feeling. Be careful. Tie them all up and release the signal for people to come and bring them back." Hearing this, the two women did not say anything. They responded with a yes and tied them up. At this moment, one of them seemed to have thought of something and asked, "Where's that little pet? Why don't I see it?" It's really gone. It was here before." The other woman also looked around. The little pet that was lying on the side was nowhere to be seen. "Don't worry about that little pet. It's just a little beast." As the older woman spoke, she helped tie them up and waited for her people to come and bring Fengjiu and the others back to their territory. In the night, Tunyon lay in the grass nearby and watched this scene. It watched as its master, Duanyi, and the others were tied up. Around an hour later, another 7 or 8 people came. There were both men and women among them. When it saw them take the people away, Tunyon chased after them. When Duanyi and Ning Lang woke up, they saw that they were locked in an iron cage. Seeing the iron cage, Ning Lang remembered the scene of being sold last time and could not help but cry out, "Ah! Why are we locked in an iron cage again? Can't we go somewhere else?" Hearing this, Fengzhou could not help but chuckle. "Don't worry, you'll be able to go somewhere else soon. It'll definitely be more comfortable than here." Duanyi and Ning Lang looked to the side and saw Fengzhou sitting there with a smile between his brows. It seemed that he had woken up long ago. They could not help but be startled. Ning Lang asked, "What do you mean? What do you mean, go somewhere else? Can we really go somewhere else?" Duanyi looked around and asked, "Where is this place?" Seeing that Song Ming had not woken up yet, he walked over and kicked him. Song Ming. Ah! Song Ming, who had woken up from the pain, saw Duanyi staring at him angrily and asked, "What's wrong? What's wrong? Look at this place." He snorted, his baby face full of anger. "If you hadn't saved those people on the way, would we have been locked in a cage?" Hearing this, Song Ming was shocked. He remembered the scene at that time and quickly jumped up. "Where is this place? Why are we all here? Here. I heard them say that this is the Joyous Union sect, a happy and unfettered place. Aside from us, there are also many young men and young women imprisoned here. They should have been captured and brought back here." She spoke in a relaxed manner, but Duanyi and the others felt their hearts sink as their faces darkened. Hehuan sect. That was a heretical sect. It was said that they cultivated some kind of heretical technique that harvested yin to replenish yang. How could that be? The 3 of them. Song Ming looked at them with a face full of guilt and shame. It was all his fault. He had implicated them. It's useless to talk about this now. Let's think about how to leave this place. Duanyi said and did not blame him. Instead, he looked at Fengzhou and asked, "Do you have any ideas?" Chapter 10:22. The two were startled. "No. Then what should we do?" They thought that he would have a way. After all, he was the one who told them to act according to circumstances. Now that they were locked in the iron cage, there was nothing they could do. Weren't they being trampled on? What should we do? Fengzhou smiled. "We'll know when the sun rises." Hearing this, the 3 of them looked at each other and felt a little uneasy. In the Hehuan sect, if they made a mistake, they might lose their chastity or even their lives. However, the 3 of them saw Fengzhou sitting on the side with a relaxed expression, as if he wasn't worried at all. They couldn't help but feel strange. However, they soon found out that although they were awake, the spiritual power in their bodies was sealed and they couldn't use it at all. As for Fengzhou, your spiritual power wasn't sealed. The 3 of them approached him and asked in a low voice. It wasn't sealed in the first place. It's just that you guys were drugged and can't gather your spiritual power. She said leisurely, glanced at them and said, "Don't disturb me, I want to sleep." When the 3 of them heard this, they couldn't help but be happy. "You must have a way to use the drug. Quickly help us break it. Otherwise, without spiritual power, we'll be like mortals. If we're caught, what will happen?" Unexpectedly, Fengzhou shook his head. "No, there's a nascent soul-old monster here. If your spiritual power recovers, you'll be noticed. At that time, it'll be even more troublesome. It's better like this. Don't worry, just act according to circumstances. If there's a possibility of losing your chastity, push Song Ming out. Anyway, this is what he wants." Hearing this, Song Ming's scalp went numb. Looking at Fengzhou, who had closed his eyes, he smiled embarrassedly. Fengzhou, I didn't do it on purpose. No one thought that something like this would happen. Wrong. It's just you who didn't think of it, not me. She opened her eyes and glanced at him. Don't crowd around me, go to the side. Seeing this, the three of them could only go to the side and sit down. However, even though it was late at night, they did not feel sleepy at all. They did not know if it was a psychological effect, but they actually heard a strange sound faintly coming from the night sky. That night was extremely difficult for them to endure. However, as they waited and worried, the next day arrived. When the first ray of sunlight shone down, they were able to clearly see their surroundings. They were actually on top of a mountain. Inside, there were a few scantily clad men and women walking around. There were also some who came to the front of the iron cages and sized up the people trapped in the cages. These youths are really outstanding. I heard that they were captured by eldest senior sister and the others. Yes. This time, eldest senior sister and the others went out and captured many young men and women for our sect. However, none of them are as outstanding as these few people. I heard that these are for Master and the others. That's right, such outstanding young men should be given to Master and the others. However, since eldest senior sister and the others offered such outstanding young men, Master and the others must have given them a good reward. That's for sure. The people in the iron cages looked at the women outside the iron cages staring at them like wolves and tigers. They could not help but have goosebumps all over their bodies. After they left, the three people in the iron cages leaned towards Fengzhou. Chapter 10:23. Hearing this, Fengzhou chuckled and said, Here, they must be pretending to surrender. We'll do whatever they say. Do as you see fit. First, we'll figure out the situation here. But we can't gather our spiritual energy. What if something unexpected happens? Song Ming asked anxiously. Hearing this, Fengzhou teased, Isn't this your type? The women here have good figures and faces. You're a man anyway, so you won't be at a disadvantage. Take advantage of this opportunity and enjoy yourself among these women. Otherwise, you won't be able to move your legs the next time you see a woman. Fengzhou. Alright, I'm joking with you. Here, take it. Take it when you're in a critical situation. This can neutralize the effects of the drug in your body. Don't let anyone find out. With a flip of her hand, she handed 3 pills to them. She looked at them meaningfully and said, If you're not strong enough, use your brain more. Don't blindly use force to solve problems. Sometimes, you have to make good use of your advantages. Hearing this, the 3 of them were slightly moved. They secretly pondered the meaning of these words. At this moment, 2 women walked over from not far away. They were the 2 charming women from before. However, they no longer looked as wretched as they did outside. At this moment, they exuded a seductive and fatal allure. The chiffon on their bodies was almost transparent and clearly printed the color of the belly bands on their chests. Under the chiffon, a pair of long legs were revealed from the side of their high slits. It was very seductive. The 2 of them stopped in front of the iron cage and looked at the people in the cage. Their gazes fell on Song Ming and Fengzhou. Compared to the baby-faced Duan Yi and the pleasant-looking chubby Ning Lang, their gazes fell more easily on Fengzhou, who was slightly curling his lips and exuding a devilish aura, as well as the extremely manly Song Ming. It's been hard on you. You have to stay in this small iron cage. One of the girls smiled as she covered her red lips. Her charming eyes stared at Fengzhou, who was sitting in the cage without any restraint or anger. Looking at the young man's handsome face and evil smile, her heart moved slightly. She stepped forward and unlocked the cage. She opened the door and looked at the people inside. She said softly, Don't even think about escaping. Now that you're here, you won't be able to escape. Our master wants to see you. Come with us. Fengjiu stood up, flicked his robes, and stepped out of the iron cage. His graceful posture and unrestrained expression made him feel as if he was in his own backyard. When the other three saw him walk out, they followed the two women to see their master. Along the way, they also looked at the environment inside. Looking at the layout and the number of people here, it seemed like a small sect. There were mountains and rivers here, as well as some pavilions scattered around the mountains. However, judging from the number of people, there were only about 200 people here. Fengjiu pondered. This place was obviously occupied by them. However, why was there no one in charge of this place? Normally, such an evil sect would not be allowed to appear in a second-rate country. Could it be that they had just appeared? Or could it be that there was an expert suppressing them here? Chapter 10:24. Sitting in the middle were three coquettish women. They looked to be in their 20s, but in terms of bone age, they were already over 100 years old. The strength of these three people was in the nascent soul stage, two of them were in the early nascent soul stage, while the one in the middle was in the intermediate nascent soul stage. Sitting on the left and right were 10 people, all of them were in the intermediate foundation establishment stage, 5 of them were men and 5 were women. Compared to the 3 people who looked to be in their 20s, the 10 people sitting below were men and women in their 30s and 40s. Among them, a few of the men had dark circles under their eyes, and their bodies were thin. It seemed that they had overexerted themselves. Especially when they saw them enter, other than the eyes of the 5 women sitting below brightening up, 1 or 2 of the men's eyes actually shot out a chilling light that made people feel disgusted. When Fengjiu and the others were looking at the people inside were also looking at them, but it could be said that after those people's eyes swept past the few people, they fell on the red-robed Fengjiu's body. Fengjiu was a person. In addition to his handsome appearance, the most noticeable thing about him was his temperament. He could be unbridled and charming, but he could also be as pure as a sheep, with a harmless face. He could also be enchanting and elegant, noble and unparalleled, but at the same time, he could also be domineering and imposing. Even if the few people around him were extraordinary, with outstanding temperament, as long as they stood next to Fengjiu, it was like the stars meeting the bright moon, overshadowed. You few, are you students of the 2-Star Academy? The woman sitting in the middle glanced at the 7-colored glass feather on Fengjiu's waist and asked. Yes. Fengjiu replied, looking at the woman. He asked, our 2-Star Academy shouldn't have any grudges with you, right? Your disciples caught us, what do you want to do? We are a branch of the Hehuan sect, we have not been here for a long time, so we need some disciples. The woman played with her hair, and looked at Fengjiu. I see that you are very good, are you interested in becoming a disciple of our Hehuan sect? If it's the few of you, I can consider taking you under my wing. However, to become a member of our Joyous Union sect, you must first lose your virginity. As long as you agree, I can personally teach you the matters between men and women. Hearing this, they felt a chill run down their spines. This old monster was already over 100 years old, and he still had the nerve to nibble on young grass like them. How shameless! Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and asked, what if I don't agree? You don't agree? Hee, I think you will agree. She looked at her slender fingers and said softly, because those who don't agree can only be used as cultivation furnaces for the disciples to cultivate. Cauldron, their faces darkened. If he agreed, the old witch would fuck him. If he didn't agree, anyone could fuck him. Until they were drained dry. This heretical sect was indeed heretical. They had no sense of shame at all. Fengjiu's eyes flickered. He curled his lips and said, we have to think about this. All right, I'll give you 1 day. Chapter 10:25. Yes. The 2 women replied, then said to Fengjiu and the others, let's go. Fengjiu and the others followed the 2 out. After they left, the others also stood up and left, leaving only the 3 people in the main seats. These people's temperaments are not ordinary. They should be disciples from some large family clans. The woman on the left said. Yes, the 4 of them all have their own characteristics. Especially that red-clothed youth, he gives off a breathtaking feeling. Among the 4 of them, that red-clothed youth is indeed the most outstanding. If we can take them in as our disciples, there will definitely be an unexpected surprise. However, will they agree in the end? Other than agreeing, do they have any other choice? The woman in the middle said, her beautiful eyes filled with charm as she looked outside. Once they see the benefits of our joyous union sect, they will naturally be willing to stay. Hearing this, the other 2 looked at each other and smiled. That's right. To men, the most enchanting place was a beauty's nest. Now that they were here, how could they reject the beautiful and passionate women here? Perhaps they were confident that Feng Jiu and the others wouldn't be able to escape, so they didn't want to give up the free and unfettered place inside. After all, in their opinion, those people were just teenagers. How difficult would it be for them to capture them with their means? Thus, Fengjiu and the others were led by the 2 women to familiarize themselves with this place. They brought them to the place where the disciples were. Once they entered that place, they could see pure, seductive, and beautiful women sitting around. When they saw them coming, they all stared at them like wolves or tigers. That's right, even in this place, there were relatively few male cultivators here. Most of them were women. Oh, these are the youths that we are going to offer to Master and the others. They are so handsome. An enchanting woman leaned over, her slender jade-like hand reaching out to touch Fengjiu's face. Put away your fox claws. This is not someone you can touch. One of the women leading the way coldly glanced at her and slapped away the woman's hand. Yo, you're protecting her. The woman smiled coquettishly and glanced at the other woman. She gently stroked her chest with one hand, as if she wanted everyone's eyes to follow her hand and land on her ample bosom. After that, she threw a coquettish glance at Feng Jiu and smiled coquettishly. Little brother, we'll be on the same side in the future. Remember to come often. I'll wait for you here. This big sister is not only beautiful, but also has the best figure I've ever seen. How should I address you? Feng Jiuxiao narrowed his eyes. His handsome face had an evil smile, and his eyes were full of unbridled admiration. They lingered on the woman's body, and he didn't look away for a long time. Upon hearing this and seeing Fengjiu's lecherous gaze, the corners of Song Ming, Duan Yi, and Ning Lang's mouths twitched. They couldn't bear to look at him directly and looked away. So this was what Fengjiu meant when he said that he had to make good use of his strengths and advantages. Honey trap. All right. This was the first time they had seen him use a honey trap to seduce women. They couldn't see a trace of uneasiness or reluctance at all. Chapter 10:26. When the coquettish woman heard Fengjiu's words and saw that his half-squinted eyes were fixed on her body, she couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh coquettishly. She glanced at him and said, "Your mouth. You really know how to talk." As she spoke, she glanced at the 2 women provocatively. Then, she said to Fengjiu, "From now on, call me Senior Marshal Sister Tao. Let's go. I'll take you somewhere else." The 2 women's faces darkened as they led them to the other side. When they were about to leave, Fengjiu smiled at the flirtatious woman before leaving with the 2 women. As they walked inside, other than a few flirtatious women, they could also see some men and women hugging each other. The scene of flirting and quarreling left them speechless. After seeing the living quarters of those brothers, as well as their daily lives, they were brought to the place where they were used as cultivation furnaces. There were a few young boys and girls locked in iron cages. They seemed to have just been captured and had yet to be trained. There were also some with dull expressions and tattered clothes. They sat there in a daze, absent-minded manner. When they saw the red scars on the bodies of the dazed young women, Fengzhou and the others' eyes flickered. After suppressing their hostility, they walked past those people. At this moment, they saw a male cultivator walk into the metal cages and choose a young woman. The young woman inside the metal cages hugged each other and cried for mercy. "What are you crying for? You, come out." The male cultivator pointed at one of the young women and shouted with a fierce gaze. Fengzhou glanced at him. With a slight movement of his finger, a silver needle popped out. "An." That person groaned and suddenly fell to the ground, convulsing. Everyone in the surroundings was shocked and rushed forward to check. Even the two people who led Fengzhou and the others here gave Fengzhou and the others some instructions when they saw this scene. Then, they walked forward to check. "Take the medicine. This is for you. Find a place with the wind and light it so that the smell will spread." An item was stuffed into Duanye's sleeve. Duanye responded. Taking advantage of the chaos, he and Ning Lang retreated. They turned around and ran away quickly. After twitching for a while, the man on the ground died. No one could find out the cause of his death because Fengzhou's silver needle had pierced into his body. The entire needle had sunk into his body, so naturally, no one could find out the cause. Where are the two of them? When the two returned and saw that only Fengzhou and Songming were left, they couldn't help but frown and ask. "You said you're going to relieve yourself. Do you want to go?" Fengzhou looked at the woman and asked with a faint smile. The woman glared at Fengzhou. "You'd better not play any tricks. Otherwise, you'll suffer a fate worse than death. Let's go." As she spoke, she led the way again while the other person went to look for Duanye and Ning Lang. "By the way, what's that place?" Fengzhou asked as he pointed at a remote area. "It's not a place you can go. Just follow me," the woman said unhappily and turned to look at the two of them. Fengzhou gestured to Songming, asking him to go forward and deal with the woman. Songming was a little troubled. However, under Fengzhou's gaze, he still closed his eyes and strode forward, hugging the woman. The woman was stunned. She frowned and asked, "Songming, what are you doing? If we enter Hehuan's sect, I want to dual cultivate with you," Songming said with a hint of anticipation in his eyes. "You know that I like you. You like me too, right?" Chapter 10:27. Hearing this, the woman was a little suspicious. "You've really decided to come in? Other than this, do we have any other choice?" Songming said, then smiled. "Also, I think this place is pretty good, there are beauties everywhere." Hearing this, and thinking about how Songming would occasionally take advantage of them along the way, the woman didn't doubt him, so she hooked her arms around his neck and smiled. "That's true, other than this, you really don't have any other choice." As soon as she finished speaking, she saw her body stiffen, her whole body hung in Songming's arms, unable to say a word. Songming supported the woman in his arms and looked at Fengzhou, only to see him glance around and say, "Take her away, I'll go take care of the people around here." "Be careful," Songming reminded her. Then, he helped the woman who couldn't move and walked forward. The place where the furnace was locked was isolated from the other side. There were about 10 people guarding here, 2 of them were foundational cultivators. If she wanted to quietly take care of these people, she would have to spend a lot of effort. Therefore, she quietly approached. If she could quietly take care of them, then she would quietly take care of them. If she couldn't, then she would come out and tempt them. After all, most of them were women. After quietly taking care of 12 people, she approached the 2 foundational cultivators. Before she even got close, they noticed her. "What are you doing here? Where are the 2 people who led you here?" The 2 frowned and stared at Fengzhou. Fengzhou smiled, her clear eyes fell on the 2 people. They were the 2 foundational cultivators she saw in the hall earlier. Therefore, she smiled. "After I came out, I didn't see them. I'm not very familiar with this place and don't know the way, so I wanted to come over and ask. Hearing this, the two looked at each other, then their eyes fell on Fingzhou, who was wearing a red robe, revealing a charming smile. I seem to remember, you're called Fingzhou? Yes. She responded, then asked, Senior sisters, I wonder if you can let me in to drink a cup of water. Come in. He, aren't you afraid that we'll eat you? The two of them giggled. They clearly looked like they were in their 30s, but they were still very interested in a small and tender grass. Hearing this, Fingzhou chuckled. Looking at the two women's voluptuous figures, she smiled and said, Senior sisters are as beautiful as flowers. If Fingzhou really catches your eyes, wouldn't it be Fingzhou's fortune? Damn Xiang, that mouth of yours sure knows how to talk. The two glared at Fingzhou. One of them reached out a finger and lightly hooked Fingzhou's red robe, saying, Come in. As soon as he finished speaking, he threw a coquettish glance at Fingzhou, closed the door. All right. She responded softly and the smile on her lips deepened. She followed the two into the room and closed the door behind her. Not long after the door closed, a skinny foundation establishment cultivator stared at the closed door and chuckled, so he is also a hypocrite. I didn't expect this kid to have such a big appetite. Chapter 1028. What's the point of hiding there and watching? Why don't you come along? When he heard the lazy voice, the male cultivator's eyes widened in shock. His face was filled with astonishment and excitement. He didn't expect this youth to say such enticing words. It really made him too excited. Are you talking to me? He walked out from the shadows, his eyes like a wolf's as he stared at the handsome young man in red. Is there anyone else here besides you? She raised her eyebrows and looked at him with a faint smile. Other than him, everyone here had been killed by her. Only this lecherous heretic cultivator hadn't noticed. Suddenly, she realized that it wasn't difficult to get rid of these lecherous bastards. She didn't know if they were too confident or if they were really blinded by lust. Where are those two women? Why haven't they come out? The male cultivator walked closer and stared at Fingzhou with excitement. Hearing this, she curled her lips and said meaningfully, They can't get up and are lying inside. Ha, I really couldn't tell that you were so. Before he could finish his laughter, his eyes widened and he let out a muffled groan. He stared in shock and disbelief at the red-robed young man who had suddenly appeared in front of him. The pain in his chest, the stiffness in his body, and the blockage in his throat made him realize that this was not an illusion. This young man had really appeared in front of him in an instant and dealt him a fatal blow. You should go in and keep them company too. Fingzhou turned around and pushed the stiff body inside. The moment the dagger was pulled out, fresh blood spurted out. The male cultivator unwillingly took his last breath. Even in death, his eyes were still wide open in disbelief. He was in the late stage of foundation establishment while Fingzhou was only in the early stage of foundation establishment. Everyone here thought that Fingzhou was only in the early stage of foundation establishment. Who would have thought that she was already in the middle stage of golden core? It was really too easy for a middle stage golden core cultivator to kill a foundation establishment cultivator. In terms of speed, a foundation establishment cultivator would never be faster than a golden core cultivator. Fingzhou closed the door to cover the smell of blood in the room. She walked out and looked at the wisps of smoke drifting in the wind. She curled her lips and walked out. Fingzhou. Song Ming walked over with large strides. After looking around, he said to her, There are too many people guarding the main door. I found a small path to leave this place. Hearing this, she threw the key to him. Go save the people in the iron cages and bring them to the small path. Let them leave first. Okay. Taking the key, he quickly opened the cages and rescued the people inside. Then, he led them to the small path. We're back. Not far away, Duan Ye's Ning Lang rushed over and said to Fingzhou, "We lit up the smoke at the few windy areas. We also killed the evil cultivators we met on the way. There's no one left in this area. Let's go to the main hall." As she spoke, she looked deeply at the two of them. "Are you guys ready? Those people won't show any mercy to you. If you're not careful, you'll die." Chapter 1029. Next to her, Ning Lang also patted Yuan's belly and grinned. "That's right. I'm a foundation-building cultivator after all. I can't deal with those nascent soul-old monsters, but I can still deal with foundation-building cultivators. If I really can't deal with them, I'll still run. I won't stand there stupidly and let them kill me." Hearing this, Fingzhou smiled. "All right. Come with me." As she spoke, she walked towards the main hall with them. The people on the other side were still unaware that the people in this area had been rescued. When Fingzhou and the other two came to the front, the people who saw them asked in confusion, "Why are you here? What about the two people who led you here? They said they had something to do and told us to walk around on our own." Fingzhou smiled and moved her hand slightly. In the next moment, Duan Yi and Ning Lang, who were next to her, instantly rushed out. Their long swords, which were suffused with cold light, attacked those evil cultivators at a speed that was too fast for the ears to cover. Sword shadows rose and saber lights appeared, overflowing with killing intent. The surrounding people were shocked. Then, they shouted angrily, "How dare you!" When more than 10 cultivators surrounded and attacked the three of them, Duan Yi shouted in a low voice, "Flaming Lion." At his command, the Flaming Lion, which was a sacred beast, rushed out from his spiritual beast space and pounced on those evil cultivators while stepping on flames. "Fingzhou, leave these people to us." As Duan Yi spoke, he swung his sword and chopped off the head of an evil cultivator at the same time. Blood splattered, and his ruthlessness was fully displayed at this moment. Fingzhou glanced at the two of them and nodded. "There are too many people. You two just have to hold on and wait for the medicine to take effect." As she walked forward, she also helped them deal with some of the cultivators. The commotion here alarmed the people above, especially the 3 nascent soul cultivators on the main peak. Such a big massacre and the smell of blood spread, causing the 3 of them to be shocked and furious. "What's going on? Who dares to cause trouble in our joyous union sect?" A disciple outside hurriedly came in and reported, "It's Fengzhou and the others. They released all the people we captured and killed all our disciples in the area where the cultivation furnaces were kept." 3 foundation establishment cultivators died in succession. Hearing this, the 3 of them were shocked. How is that possible? How could they have killed a foundation establishment cultivator without making a sound? He quickly rushed outside and looked down the mountain. What he saw made him feel shocked. Aren't they all drugged? Without the antidote, how did they condense their spiritual energy? At the foot of the mountain, the most dazzling figure was the red figure. He walked up the mountain as if there was no one around. Every disciple who tried to stop him was instantly killed by him. Especially when they saw the sharp sword in his hand that was glowing with a cold green light, they were even more shocked. Qingfeng sword. It's actually the Qingfeng sword. Why does he have the Qingfeng sword? Who is he? 3 shocked cries came from the 3 of them. The 3 of them looked at the Qingfeng sword in the red figure's hand in shock. That was an ancient divine weapon that had been missing for many years. How could he have it? Seeing the red-clothed youth holding the Qingfeng sword walk over like a god of death, not a single person was left alive. Wherever he went, corpses would fall to the ground. The 3 of them were shocked and suddenly came back to their senses. If this continued, all the disciples here would be killed by him. Chapter 1030. Below, Duan Yi and Ning Lang, who inadvertently looked up, were also shocked. Unconsciously, their eyes were blinded by the sharp cyan light. Azure Edge Sword. It was actually the Azure Edge Sword. Fengjiu actually held the Azure Edge Sword in his hand. How much did they not know about him? At this moment, they felt that when they thought they already knew him very well, he unexpectedly revealed a side that they would never have thought of. It made them feel that what they saw before, what they knew, and what they knew, was only the tip of the iceberg. Fengjiu. Who the hell are you? 3 figures came in front of Fengjiu. They waved away the disciples who rushed up and looked at the youth who showed the middle gold core stage cultivation in front of them. Their eyes revealed a touch of seriousness. This youth's bone age was only 17 or 18 years old, but he was already at the middle gold core stage. This kind of heaven-defying strength, even some big clans could not cultivate such a monster. Especially when he held the Azure Edge Sword in his hand, his body's pressure and fierce aura were fully revealed. That domineering aura and the majesty of a superior made them even more frightened. He was definitely not an ordinary student of a 2-star academy. Hearing this, Fengjiu turned the Azure Edge Sword in his hand. A cyan light flashed in a half-arc and fell at the feet of the 3 people. She looked at the 3 women and smiled. Now you want to ask me what I am. But don't you think it's too late? Fengjiu, you're just a middle gold core stage cultivator. Do you think you can be a match for us nascent soul stage cultivators? One of the women snorted coldly. Accompanied by her cold snort, a nascent soul stage pressure also attacked Fengjiu. However, what made the 3 people's faces ugly was that in the face of a nascent soul stage cultivator's pressure, Fengjiu's expression did not change in the slightest. This made them stunned and frightened at the same time. Could it be that his cultivation was not just at the middle gold core stage? Could it be that he was still hiding his cultivation? Yes, before, didn't he suppress his cultivation to make them think that he was just a foundation establishment stage cultivator? But, a teenage nascent soul stage cultivator? Was it possible? I prefer to let strength speak for itself. As soon as she finished speaking, the azure-tipped sword in her hand flashed and a red figure rushed towards a nascent soul cultivator in front of her. Her extreme speed exceeded the speed of a golden elixir cultivator. Murderous intent surged from her body, and a powerful pressure emanated from her body. That was the pressure that she had been restraining all this time. It had the aura of an ancient divine beast. Her aura was domineering and extremely powerful. Feeling the pressure that was coming at them, the 3 of them were shocked, and a trace of astonishment flashed across their eyes. The pressure of an ancient divine beast. There was no mistake. The aura contained within that pressure caused their hearts to turn sluggish. The speed at which they should have dodged in the first instance had also slowed down a little. It was only when the cold green light was right in front of their eyes and the aura of death was right between their brows that the 3 of them suddenly trembled. They bit the tip of their tongues to stabilize their minds and swiftly dodged. Swish! Even though the nascent soul cultivator managed to avoid the fatal blow, his cheek was still injured by the terrifying sword chi. A streak of blood flowed down his cheek. Chapter 1031. Just as they retreated, the long sword attacked again. They only saw a green light flash in front of their eyes, and a cold sword chi burst forth. They were injured by the sword chi, and felt a cold light penetrate into their bones, causing pain to spread throughout their bodies. Hiss! Damned Fengjiu! Under Fengjiu's ancient pressure, the 3 of them couldn't even get close to him. After a few exchanges, they were injured by his sword chi. Just as the 3 of them were feeling humiliated, they saw smoke rising from the mountain. When they saw the smoke spread, their killing intent soared. You dare to destroy our efforts? I'll kill you. The mid-nascent soul stage cultivator released her full power and a blood-red longsword appeared in her hand. In the next moment, she flew forward and the long sword in her hand gathered spiritual power in the air and slashed towards Fengjiu with a destructive force. The pressure of the middle Yuanying stage burst out, and his strength soared. Suddenly, a waterfall of airflow was formed, and it contended with Feng Zhou's pressure. Wind, sand, and dust suddenly rolled up from the ground, and the whistling pressure formed a stormy wave, turning into two dragons that collided in the air. The red-robed Fengzhou and the scantily clad nascent soul female cultivator fought from the ground to the air. A powerful pressure spread from the air and spread over 100 meters. Even the people fighting at the foot of the mountain felt their blood boil under this pressure and quickly retreated, unable to continue fighting. Under the pressure of the battle, the Joyous Union sect disciples who inhaled the smoke seemed to have lost all their strength and fell to the ground, unable to continue fighting. Seeing this, Duan Yi and Ning Lang worked together to take their lives while the effects of the medicine were taking effect. Halfway up the mountain, the two early nascent soul stage cultivators saw the battle in midair, and when they saw what was happening below, they couldn't help but gasp in shock. How could this be? They had just established their sect not long ago and had nurtured disciples for many years, but now, they were either destroyed or killed. That you all deserve to die. The two nascent soul cultivators roared angrily. They could not interfere in the battle in the air, so they would kill the two people below first. Monstrous killing intent surged as two figures flashed out towards Duan Yi and Ning Lang, who were at the foot of the mountain. Ning Lang was following Duan Yi and harvesting the lives of those evil cultivators. As the next successor of an aristocratic family, the training and cultivation they received was different from ordinary people. It was not their first time killing people, especially when they were killing evil cultivators. They would not hesitate to kill them. However, at this moment, they suddenly felt a chill on their backs. Their survival instincts made them feel the danger of death. They quickly turned around to look. What they saw shocked Ning Lang so much that he screamed. "Ah! Not good! Duan Yi, run! Those two old witches are here." Ning Lang could not be bothered to take the life of the sorcerer on the ground. He pulled Duan Yi up and ran in a panic. The two of them together could not defeat a nascent soul stage witch. If they did not run, they would only be killed. Duan Yi turned around and saw the two nascent soul stage old witches rushing over from the middle of the mountain. Their eyes were cold and murderous. Before he could react, he was pulled away by Ning Lang. The speed of their escape almost caused him to fall to the ground unknowingly. Chapter 1032. Angry voices mixed with monstrous killing intent spread through the air. Under the influence of the nascent soul stage aura, their voices rumbled like thunder, shaking the air and causing the airflow to fluctuate. Duan Yi was being pulled as he ran. When he looked back, he saw that the flaming lion was still setting fire everywhere. He hurriedly shouted, "Flaming lion, run!" Of the two nascent soul stage cultivators, one was chasing after the flaming lion, while the other was chasing after Duan Yi and Ning Lang. Therefore, when they heard Duan Yi shout, they immediately snorted coldly, "Take care of yourself. Don't worry, even if you die, your contract beast will still follow behind you." Seeing that the nascent soul stage cultivator was getting faster and faster, as if she would be behind them in the blink of an eye, Duan Yi gritted his teeth and said, "Ning Lang, let go of me. I'll fight this old witch." "Fight what?" "That old witch is a nascent soul stage cultivator. You and I are only foundation establishment stage cultivators. Even if there are 10 of us, we won't be a match for that old witch. Run, don't be long-winded." Ning Lang, the little fatty, was not slow when he ran. He wiped his sweat as he ran. Because of his nervous and worried expression, he did not dare to relax and slow down. He pulled Duan Yi and ran to be chased by the old witch behind them. He looked back and said while panting, Fortunately, I didn't learn anything else but this escaping skill. Duan Yi, you have to thank me. Otherwise, you would have been caught by that old witch long ago. When you return to your home, you have to remember to send some gifts to my home. It's best if it's something valuable. If not, gold coins will do. Then I won't let you go in vain. Phew, I'm so tired. Duanyi also noticed that his escaping speed was not slow at all. It was as if his feet were smeared with oil. He pulled him and ran at a speed that was not slower than him. However, it was not a way to go on like this. That old witch is catching up. Ning Lang, let go of me quickly. Otherwise, both of us will die. Let go of what? Am I such a disloyal person? He turned back and scolded, but when he saw the old witch 5 meters away, he was so frightened that he cried out involuntarily, "Ah! The old witch is catching up. You damn fatty. Shut up." Hearing the two of them talking about her while running in front of her and calling her an old witch, the nascent soul evil cultivator was so angry that her face turned red. Seeing that the two of them were right in front of her, she immediately condensed a powerful airflow in her palm and suddenly attacked them. Shut your mouth forever. The two of them couldn't help but turn around in shock. They wanted to avoid it, but due to the inertia of running forward, they couldn't stop themselves from changing directions. Seeing the powerful airflow coming towards them, the two of them knew that they couldn't avoid it and their hearts sank. They gritted their teeth and tried to block the attack. However, at this moment, they heard a deafening roar. The two of them looked over, only to see a white figure suddenly knock them out of the way. Due to the force of the collision, the two of them rolled on the ground for nearly 10 meters. After quickly getting up, the two of them saw that the figure that knocked them out of the way was Fingzhou's swallowing cloud. Roar! The majestic Tun Yun had regained its original majestic body. The pressure and aura of a divine beast were fully displayed as it recovered. It was tall and big, like a tiger or a lion. It stood in front of Duan Yi and Ning Lang in an overbearing manner, guarding them. Swallowing Cloud. Chapter 1033. When they were captured, they did not see the devouring cloud and thought that it was left in the forest. They did not expect that it would find them and even save them. This was really a surprise for them. Divine Beast. The nascent soul stage-old witch narrowed her eyes as a glint flashed across her eyes. She stared at the majestic cloud-swallowing beast in front of her and said, "This shouldn't be your divine beast, right? Is it Fingzhou's?" A mere teenager, not only had the green-edged sword, he even had a contract with an ancient divine beast and a divine beast. This Fingzhou, just who was he? With just the few of them, they were able to easily destroy the Joyous Union sect which they painstakingly built up. They were really capable. Ah! All of a sudden, Ning Lang exclaimed and said, "I'm really stupid. I only cared about escaping and forgot that I have a treasure for escaping." As he said that, he took out a pair of golden boots from his dimensional storage and changed into them. Duan Yi took a look and asked in surprise, "Isn't this the cloud-chasing boots? You actually have it." This was a good treasure. A pair of cloud-chasing boots was a magical treasure for escaping. With this speed, even a Yuaning cultivator would not be able to catch up to it. He heard before that the cloud-chasing boots appeared in an auction but was bought at a high price. He did not expect it to be in the hands of little fatty. Hearing that, Ning Lang proudly raised his chin and said, "Why don't you think about who I am? I am the young master of Ning City. Don't think that only you guys have contracted beasts or treasured swords. I am also a person with treasures. Any one of them would be enough to scare you guys to death." Hearing that, the corner of Duan Ye's mouth twitched and he could not be bothered to talk to him anymore. The Yuaning cultivator's face was gloomy as he clenched his fists and emitted a baleful aura. These youths really made them extremely shocked. Forget about that Fingzhou, they already felt that he was the most unusual amongst the youths. But they did not expect that this unremarkable little fatty would be able to casually take out such a treasure. At this moment, she really regretted it. Because she was too confident, she didn't let the disciples search them and take away all their treasures. It was only at this moment that they realized that the items in the Chinquan bags that were taken from them could not be considered as items at all. The items in the Chinquan bags were things that they were not afraid of being taken away. The real good things were hidden on them. Swallow Cloud, I'll leave that old witch to you. Fight if you can, and run if you can't. Duanyi shouted at the cloud-swallowing beast. Seeing that the nascent soul old witch could not catch up with his flaming lion and was running towards them, he immediately grabbed Ning Lang's hand and shouted, "What are you staring at? Run quickly! The old witch over there is here." "Ah! Where? Where?" Ning Lang was shocked and quickly looked around. Sure enough, he saw the nascent soul stage old witch rushing towards them from not far away. He was so frightened that he screamed and ran away with Duanyi. The Yuaning cultivators are indeed Yuaning cultivators. They are all shameless. These two old things are more than 200 years old. How dare they bully us young children? They are too shameless. Hearing Ning Lang's aggrieved and angry words, Duanyi said angrily, "Don't be long-winded. Run. After Fingzhou kills that Yuaning middle-stage old witch, these two will not be far from death." Chapter 1034. Ning Lang turned back and scolded, "Only an idiot wouldn't run. Do you think we are like you? Darn old witch, chase me if you have the guts. If you can catch me, I'll give it to you." Under his feet, the pair of golden boots came into play. He ran as fast as the wind, making it impossible for the Yuaning cultivator to catch up even if she wanted to. However, she was unwilling to let the both of them go just like that. Thus, she clenched her teeth and chased after them. Especially when she heard little Fatty scolding her from time to time but was unable to catch him, the Yuaning cultivator was angered to the point she almost vomited blood. "Darn you, darn little Fatty. Don't let me catch you. If not, I will skin you alive." The Yuaning cultivator was driven mad as she chased after him with all her might. The most hateful thing was that even though the person in front was provoking her, she could not catch up to him at all. The other Yuaning cultivator was entangled by Swallowing Cloud. A man and a beast were fighting there. Swallowing Cloud's roar and the other party's attack on the ground could be heard from time to time, causing the ground to tremble slightly. Just at this moment, a mournful voice sounded from the middle of the mountain. The voice was sharp and angry, causing them to look towards the middle of the mountain. "Fengzhou. Who are you?" The middle Yuaning cultivator's dantian was pierced by Fengzhou's green-edged sword. The green-edged sword pierced through from the front to the back and fresh blood flowed down the blade. The middle Yuaning cultivator held onto the sword with both hands and allowed the fresh blood to flow down. Her eyes were fixed on the red-clothed youth in front of her, as though she would not give up until she found out who he was. In mid-air, the youth's red robes fluttered in the wind and his black hair flew messily, brushing past his handsome face. She held the azure-edged sword in her hand. At this moment, the sharp azure-edged sword that had collided with the nascent soul of the female nascent soul cultivator shattered her nascent soul and pierced through her body. If she pulled out the azure-edged sword at this moment, fresh blood would spurt out and the evil cultivator whose blood vessels had been severed would die from the violent gush of blood. Therefore, her hands were tightly gripping the blade of her sword. Her enchanting eyes were fixed on Fengzhou. She wanted to know why she was about to die. "I am Fengzhou." His voice was calm, but it contained the domineering aura of an expert, causing people's hearts to involuntarily tremble. Just as her voice rang out, she pulled back her Qingfeng sword. In an instant, fresh blood spurted out and the figure fell from the sky as if it had lost its support. It looked at the red-robed young man standing in the air and swallowed its last breath. However, it could never close its eyes as it stared fixedly at the figure. Bang! A heavy thud was heard as the mid-stage nascent soul cultivator fell halfway down the mountain. Her body rolled down until it was blocked by a rock. At this moment, she was no longer as beautiful and enchanting as before. All that could be seen was a mangled mess of flesh and blood. Hiss. Gasps could be heard from the foot of the mountain. When the two nascent soul cultivators saw what had happened, they were filled with shock. They looked at the red figure in disbelief, and then at the handsome young man. They couldn't believe that he, a gold core cultivator, could kill a mid-nascent soul stage cultivator. At this moment, fear and the desire to escape arose. Because of their fear and shock, only one thought appeared in their minds. Chapter 1035. With that thought in mind, they almost wanted to escape without thinking. The situation was already over. If they didn't escape now, when would they? Fengzhou, who was halfway up the mountain, saw that the two of them were escaping in two different directions. His eyes turned cold, and as he flew up, he untied the red armillary sash from his waist and attacked one of the nascent soul cultivators. Bind! With a clear shout, the 7-foot-long red armillary sash flew out as if it had a mind of its own. It flew out from halfway up the mountain and headed straight for the nascent soul cultivator. Within a few breaths, it was behind the nascent soul cultivator. The red armillary sash shot out and wrapped around the cultivator's body at lightning speed, binding her tightly. Ah! The nascent soul cultivator didn't expect that she would be bound by a red sash in a moment of panic. She immediately struggled to break free, but the more she struggled, the tighter the red sash around her body became. The red silk was like a huge snake that was tightly wrapped around her body. It was so tight that she couldn't even breathe. Furthermore, the red silk was still tightening around her body. She couldn't even muster the slightest bit of strength, let alone struggle to break free from the red silk. Right at this moment, a sharp arrow suddenly pierced through the air. The tip of the arrow was imbued with a powerful aura, and it pierced into the female nascent soul cultivator's glabella with devastating force. As fresh blood spurted out, the body fell down. However, a blood-colored nascent soul darted out of her body and tried to escape in a panic. Immediately after, a second arrow shot out and pierced through the blood-colored nascent soul. The nascent soul fell and was swallowed by Tun Yun, who pounced on it. Duan Yi and Ning Lang were stunned for a moment. They looked in the direction of the arrow and saw Song Ming standing on the mountain top not far away, holding a bow and arrow in his hand. Damn! What kind of treasure is that? It doesn't look like an ordinary bow and arrow. Ning Lang said curiously as he stared at the bow and arrow in Song Ming's hand. He realized that the arrow flew back to his hand automatically as if it had a mind of its own. He was even more certain that it was definitely a treasure on the level of a magic treasure. Bang! Swoosh swoosh! Bang! The sounds of battle from the other side drew their attention back. Fengzhou was fighting with the remaining nascent soul female cultivator. The nascent soul evil cultivator knew that she was doomed, so she didn't hold back and fought to the death. At this moment, she no longer had any extravagant hopes of killing Fengzhou. She only thought that it would be good enough if she could save her own life. However, the more she fought, the more she felt that Fengzhou was the type of person who became more and more courageous. It could be said that this red-clothed young man called Fengzhou was a born warrior. His speed was extremely fast, and his attacks were crafty and ruthless. He didn't seem like a cultivator in the middle stage of the Aurus core stage at all. Instead, he seemed like an old monster in the peak stage of the nascent soul stage. The battle between the two affected the surrounding ground. Air currents surged and sword chi collided, creating deep craters on the ground. Dust and smoke flew up. The air pressure formed by the air currents of the experts spread out. Time to end this. Fengzhou's voice was cold and filled with killing intent. The nascent soul evil cultivator was still thinking of how to escape when she saw Hong Yi rush over and appear in front of her in an instant. The green sword that was glowing with a green light and carried an aura of death as it slashed towards her. Chapter 1036. Ah! A blood-curdling scream pierced through the sky, piercing through the clouds and reverberating throughout the entire sky. Blood splattered in mid-air, like splashing ink, and a rain of blood fell from mid-air. Following the death of the last nascent soul evil cultivator, the air currents and pressure in the air dissipated, and everything returned to normal. In mid-air, the red figure stood in the wind with a green sword in his hand. His robes fluttered in the wind, and his black hair danced in the wind. The evil aura and the aura of a ruler were undoubtedly revealed at this moment. Fengjiu stared down, and his gaze fell on the three people. Then, in a flash, he withdrew the red armillary sash and green-edged sword, and rushed down to the three people below. Fengjiu, you're too powerful. Ning Lang looked at him with admiration. He was clearly the same age as them, but his combat ability was so strong. He was really much stronger than him. Of course, don't you know who I am? She imitated him from before, clasped her hands behind her back, and raised her chin, looking very pleased with herself. Ha 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 ha, of course I know. You're Fengjiu and the ghost doctor. However, people outside only say that you're good at refining pills and medicine, but they don't know that you're so good at fighting too. Ning Lang laughed loudly, and the eyes on his chubby face narrowed into a line. As if he thought of something, he slapped his thigh and shouted. "Ah! I have to go and harvest their treasures. See if there's any treasure here." As soon as he said that, he quickly ran off. Fengjiu shook his head and smiled. He looked at Song Ming and asked, "Did you bring those people out?" Don't worry. I brought them out of that small path and sent them safely away before coming back. They're all people from the nearby area. Once they're out of here, they can go home." Song Ming grinned, revealing a happy smile. This was the first time he had done something so big, destroying an evil sect. Just thinking about it made him excited. "You're not injured, right?" Fengjiu sized up the two of them. Seeing that other than some small wounds on their bodies, there were no major injuries, he was relieved. "No, these small injuries are not a big deal," the two of them said. "That's good. Since the fire is already burning here, let's first plunder all the treasures here and then burn down this mountain." As she spoke, she worked together with them to loot the Qinquan pouches on the evil cultivators, as well as their valuables and the storage of their sects. In the evening, when they walked out of the mountain, the flaming lion had already returned to Duanye's space. Tun Yun had also shrunk back into his mini-pet. The mountain behind them was still burning, forming a contrast with the sunset. It was like a cloud of fire burning on the horizon. They found a place to change out of their blood-stained clothes and rushed to the nearest town before the sky turned completely dark. 4 hours later, when the sky had already darkened, the four of them finally arrived at a nearby town. The few of them walked on the main street and looked around. Fengjiu looked at the roadside stalls and some local snacks. Duanye looked at the nearby inns which were better. Ning Lang looked at the businesses here and Song Ming looked at the red light streets with a face full of surprise. Although this town isn't big, it looks like there's quite a lot here. Chapter 1037. Seeing the three people looking at him, he smiled embarrassedly and waved his hand. No, I'm just saying. At most, I'll just take a look. Don't worry, I won't go. There's an inn in front. Let's go there and rest first. Duanye pointed to an inn in front and said. Inn. Fengjiu responded, then turned to Song Ming and said, Don't cause any more trouble. We've been here long enough. I know. Song Ming responded, touched his head, and followed behind them to the inn. After resting for a night, until the next morning, they got up and ate breakfast on the first floor. When they heard some of the guests in the inn talking about the fire in the mountain, they looked at each other and ate quietly. That place is an evil sect. I heard that they caught a lot of people there. Some of the forces in the nearby towns can't do anything to them. I heard that there are 3 nascent soul stage-old monsters guarding there. Each of them has a powerful cultivation base and a powerful charm technique. No matter how strong a person's willpower is, once they enter there, they can't get out. Yes, I also heard about this. It said that it's a branch of the Heartwarming sect. When some forces saw that there were 3 nascent soul stage cultivators guarding the evil sect, they also cleaned up the snow in front of their own door. This time, I don't know who it is, but they actually wiped out the Heartwarming sect overnight. Yes. The fire has been burning since last night, and the fire hasn't subsided. Many people were attracted by the fire last night. It said that everything inside has been burned to ashes. This is getting rid of evil for the people. I really don't know which hero is so good, doing a good thing that others can't do. I don't know. Those people who were saved are probably still in shock. Maybe after a few days, they will naturally tell us what happened. And that's true. All in all, it must be a righteous cultivator. That's for sure. Hearing their words, except for Fingzhou, the other 3 were secretly happy. Although they were happy in their hearts, they still didn't show it on their faces. However, the corners of their lips raised while eating revealed their happy mood. Fengzhou smiled and ate his breakfast quietly. She was already used to this kind of thing, so she didn't think much of it. However, they were all teenagers, so it was probably their first time doing something like this. It was the first time they were praised like this, so it was inevitable that they were happy. Fengzhou, you should have information on Luo Fei, right? That guy is a slippery one. How do you plan to take him away? Duan Yi asked as he looked at the person sitting opposite him. Yes, I've looked through the information of the 4 of you before I came out. As she spoke, she glanced at the 3 of them. All of you are troublemakers. You're quite capable of causing trouble. We can take this as a compliment from you. The 3 of them grinned. Now that they were familiar with each other, they felt more at ease with each other. She put down her chopsticks, wiped the corners of her mouth, and said leisurely, "It's good to be thick-skinned. You can do what others can't. All right, hurry up and eat. Once we're done eating, we'll leave and reach the Luo residence before evening." Chapter 1038. But at this time, these few people did not know that Luo Fei, who was the most scheming, had already received the news, and knew that the 2-star academy had sent a mentor to teach the 4 of them. Moreover, after receiving the news, he had sent people out to inquire about it, and after learning that Ning Lang and Song Ming had already been subdued and taken away, he had already started making plans in his heart. What mentor? A student from a 6-star academy wants to be my, Luo Fei's, mentor. Only those 3 idiots would be fooled. I guess they don't even know that the person called Fengzhou is a student from a 6-star academy. Sitting in front of the table, he tapped his fingers on the table, making a knocking sound. His eyes were rolling, he was already thinking about how to greet this mentor. "Young master." The voice of a guard came from outside. "Come in." Luo Fei called out, looking at the guard who came in. He asked, "What's the matter?" "Those people are already coming to our city. It is estimated that they will enter the city in the evening. What to do next, please instruct me, young master." The guard respectfully said. Hearing this, Luo Fei paused for a moment, and then said, "Send someone to wait outside the city gate 100 meters away. When you see them arrive, immediately come back and report to me." "Young master, I will bring people to pick them up." The guard was stunned. He looked up at him and saw that his face was smiling like a fox with bad intentions. He quickly bowed his head and said, "Yes." Then, he quickly left. After the guard left, Luo Fei walked around the room, thinking for a moment. He went outside and asked, "Where is my father?" "Master and madam are playing chess in the courtyard." The servant outside replied. "Playing chess." He touched his chin, his eyes turned, and stepped outside. Arriving at his parents' courtyard, he saw the two of them drinking tea and playing chess under a tree in the courtyard. He smiled and trotted forward. "Father, mother, so you are here. Why are you looking for us?" the beautiful woman asked, looking at her son with a doting gaze. The couple only had one child. They had loved him since he was a child, but because they had spoiled him too much, when the child grew up, it was indeed a headache for them. The middle-aged man looked up from the chessboard, glanced at his son, then looked at the chessboard and said, "For them to come looking for you and me, it is definitely not a good thing. Speak. Did he cause some trouble outside again? You want your old man to help you finish the job?" "Father, your son is not a troublemaker. Why would I cause trouble all the time?" He walked forward with an innocent and harmless smile and affectionately held his mother's hand, saying, "Mother, I came here to tell you that since you have nothing to do at home, you don't know how to soak in the hot springs. I've asked someone to book the entire Yuming Mountain Villa. Why don't you go there and stay for 10 days or half a month before you come back and relax?" "Oh. Are you trying to kick me and my mother out?" Family head Luo snorted and his face darkened. He looked at his son who was holding his wife's arm and asked, "What do you want to do by sending us out?" Madame Luo also patted her son's hand and lightly tapped his forehead, asking with a smile, What are you trying to do? If you don't tell father and mother clearly, father and mother won't let you have your way." Chapter 1039. Hearing this, the husband and wife were startled for a moment, then their faces lit up with surprise. "Oh? You have friends coming. Where are they from? Why haven't we heard you mention them?" As far as they knew, their son didn't seem to have made many friends, and he had never mentioned any friends in front of them. Friends like these who came to the house were even rarer. Therefore, when they heard this, they couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. So their son still had friends. Seeing his parents' expressions, the corner of Luo Fei's mouth twitched. Suddenly, he felt that it wasn't good to say this. If the two of them were in the mood and decided to stay to greet his friends, then... Madame Luo looked at him disapprovingly and said, "You child, how can you ask your parents to go out when your friends are coming? What will the guests think? Moreover, you're just a child, how can you know how to greet guests? Let us stay at home and help you look after them. Don't worry, we won't let your friends feel restrained." Patriarch Luo also nodded and said, that's right. Your father also wants to take this opportunity to meet some of your friends. I believe that they must be very outstanding if they can make friends with you. We can't neglect them." Hearing this, Luo Fei couldn't maintain the smile on his face. The corner of his mouth twitched and a few black lines appeared on his forehead. Looking at his parents who were excitedly discussing how to greet the guests, he suddenly felt like he had lifted a rock and smashed it on his own feet. "That, father, mother, actually I can." Without waiting for him to finish, Luo family head glared at him and lectured, What can you? You little brat, how many abilities do you have that I don't know? I let you play tricks and you can do it. Let you greet the guests. Can you do it? I can do it. Why couldn't he do it? Moreover, he had originally planned to play tricks. It was because it was inconvenient with his parents around that he thought of a way to coax them out. Who knew that they wouldn't fall for his trick and actually said that they would stay to greet the guests. All right, it's settled then. Father and mother will stay to greet the guests. Don't worry, we won't be rude with us around. Otherwise, when your friends come and see the host of the house hiding, how would that be? Madame Luo said and asked with a smile, Come, tell mother, how many of your friends are here to look for you? When will they arrive? I'll get someone to prepare it. Seeing his son's embarrassed and disdainful face, the hot-tempered patriarch Luo directly kicked him and scolded him, You don't know how lucky you are. Others can't even wait for their parents to greet the guests for you, but you actually disdain them. I didn't. He hurriedly dodged and looked at his mother with a wronged expression. Who knew that his mother wouldn't help him? Fei, quickly tell us, when will your friend arrive? Do we need to send someone to pick them up? They've never been to our house before, so I'm afraid they don't know the way. Take your men and wait at the city gate. Bring them home. Mother. Listen to me, go. With a smile on her face, she turned to the Luo clan's head and said, "It's rare for Fei to have a friend here, so we mustn't be impolite. I'll go and arrange for a few guest rooms to be prepared." All right, go ahead. Chapter 1040. Luo Fei's mouth twitched, but he could only sigh helplessly. Towards his father and mother, he really could only comply. So, he told them that the person might arrive in the evening, and went back first, intending to go back and think of a way. Here, the Luo clan's master and madam were happy, knowing that the guest would come in the evening. They were busy preparing for the banquet. In fact, it was precisely because they knew that their son had few friends, so when they heard that a friend was coming, they were so excited and happy. The influence of making friends was great. If you make good friends, you can learn good things. If you make bad friends, you will also learn bad things. Therefore, they were hoping that this time when a friend came home, they would be able to check him out and see what kind of friends he made. If there were some friends with bad behavior, extreme personalities, and bad character, as parents, they would naturally cut off such friends for their children. If the other party was polite and upright, they would naturally let their children interact more with them and learn from their good points. Teenage children were in a rebellious state of mind. Many times when they came in contact with bad people, it was very easy for them to learn bad things. As parents, they would not harm their children, they would only worry about their children. Until the evening, the guard had not reported that the person had arrived at the gate, but Luo father and Luo mother had already urged him to go out and wait. Helpless, he had to wait outside the gate. Luo Fei, who was sitting on a rock, looked around in boredom with a green foxtail in his mouth. There were so many people entering the city, but the person he was waiting for still hadn't arrived. He couldn't help but stand up and kick the rock. Still not here. Didn't they say in the evening? Making this young master wait here for so long, this face is really big. Young master is coming, coming. A guard shouted, pointing to a few people who were not far away. Hearing this, Luo Fei looked at the people coming. Sure enough, he saw a red figure with 3 people and a small pet coming over. His eyes swept past the 3 people, and fell on the body of a dazzling red-clothed youth. His eyes flashed with a touch of surprise. This kid was the mentor. A place like the 6-star academy, unexpectedly there was such an outstanding person. It was said that he had turned the holy land of the 2-star academy into a mess, and had even advanced to become a Jindan stage cultivator. TSK, a 17 or 18-year-old golden core cultivator, this talent was indeed a bit monstrous. It would be difficult to find a genius from a second-tier country that could compare to him. Pay. What did he mean by it was difficult to find someone who could compete with him? Only a brat from a 6th-tier country would not be taken seriously by him. With a thought, he immediately grinned and greeted them with a joyful smile. When Duan Yi and the other 2 saw the youth walking over, all of them had a wisp of surprise. Wasn't that Luo Fei? How did he know they were coming? He was actually waiting for them here. Fengjiu glanced at Luo Fei instead, and a wisp of a dim light flashed through her eyes, yet she didn't reveal any surprise on her face. Compared to Duan Ye's group of 3, she knew that someone was watching them all along the way, and she was originally wondering who it was. However, looking at the current situation, it should be the little fox, Luo Fei. Chapter 1041. Seeing this, Duan Yi and the others were slightly surprised and opened their mouths in astonishment. Instructor Feng. He knew that Fengjiu was an instructor? This Luo Fei actually knew about the news from the academy. He even knew that Fengjiu would be coming here. Fengjiu smiled as he looked at the enthusiastic young man walking towards him. You're very well informed. He, of course. I have nothing to do at home all day, so I like to ask around for news. Coincidentally, I have someone at the academy who passed the news to me. Only then did I know that Instructor Feng would be coming. Thus, I've been waiting here for 3 days and 3 nights. Finally, you're here. Hearing his casual words, not only were Duan Yi and the others speechless, even Feng Zhou's mouth twitched. Looking at the enthusiastic young man in front of him, he didn't know what to say. Instructor Feng, I've asked someone to prepare a sedan chair. Please get on. He turned slightly and shouted at the people behind him, what are you standing there for? Hurry up and bring the sedan chair over. 4 guards carried the sedan chair over. It was a simple sedan chair for 1 person and was not very eye-catching. Feng Zhou glanced at the sedan chair and said, there's no need. I'll just walk in and see the scenery of the city. How can that be? You're an instructor, I can't neglect you. Don't be so courteous with me. Just treat this place like your own home. Please. I say, Luo Fei, aren't you being too mean? Since you're here to pick us up, you should have called for more sedan chairs. How can you only bring Feng Zhou? This is too much of a difference in treatment. Ning Lang said unhappily, glaring at him. He felt that he was being too mean. Of course you can't compare yourself to an instructor. Students should act like students and respect their teachers. Don't you know that? I'm respecting my teachers. Actually, it's not far. After entering the city, we'll be there after a short walk. My house is very close. He grinned and invited Feng Zhou to get on the sedan chair. Seeing this, Feng Zhou curled her lips and stepped forward. The guards carrying the sedan lifted the curtain and lowered the door to let her in. She glanced at the palanquin, then bent down slightly and walked in, sitting in the palanquin. Duan Yi and Song Ming looked at each other and didn't say anything. Seeing the palanquin lift up and head towards the city, they followed behind it. However, after taking a few steps, they were stopped by Luo Fei. Hey, I say, how did you guys get together with him? He crossed his arms and looked at the 3 of them, saying, if my information is correct, this brat surnamed Feng is only a student of a 6th grade academy, and went to participate in that ranking competition between the academies. How did you guys get abducted by him? It was one thing to kidnap one, but all 3 of them were kidnapped at the same time. Are you guys alright? Hearing this, the 3 of them looked at each other and couldn't help but reveal a smile that outsiders couldn't understand. Looking at the dissatisfied Luo Fei in front of him, Song Ming smiled and said, weren't you calling Teacher Feng just now? How did you become the brat surnamed Feng the moment you turned around? Since you're so well informed, how come you don't know why we're following him? Seeing the strange smiles on the 3 of them, Luo Fei was puzzled and asked, weren't we abducted by him? Is there something that I don't know? Chapter 1042. The group entered the city and headed towards the Luo residence. When they passed by the most bustling central street in the city, Luo Fei, who was walking in front with Duan Yi and the others, turned around and signaled to the cultivators behind him. Then, he spoke to Duan Yi and the others beside him and walked faster. When the cultivators saw his gaze, they paused for a moment and pressed the mechanism of the palanquin at the same time. There was a click, as if something was emitted. Even Duan Yi and the others in front turned around to take a look. However, nothing happened. Luo Fei, who was walking in front, turned around to take a look. He was surprised and couldn't help but slow down. He came to the side of the palanquin and called out, "Teacher." When Duan Yi and the others saw this, they looked at each other and also slowed down to the side of the palanquin. When they saw Luo Fei calling out, they couldn't help but look at him strangely and asked, "What are you doing?" Luo Fei glanced at them and called out again, "Teacher." "Teacher Feng." After calling out twice, no one responded. Thus, he reached out and lifted the curtain to take a look inside. When he saw, he couldn't help but be stunned. Where is he? When Duan Yi and the others saw this, they couldn't help but be stunned. Looking at the empty palanquin, they couldn't react. The cultivators carrying the palanquin were stunned. After putting down the palanquin, they looked inside and said, "I don't know. We didn't see him get off the palanquin. You set up a mechanism in this palanquin." Song Ming looked at Luo Fei and asked, "What are you doing?" "Even if I set up a mechanism, I can't make him disappear." But now, where did he go? He was also confused. He didn't know when the person in the palanquin disappeared. "Look for him." "Why did you make her disappear for no reason? What do you mean by this?" Song Ming pushed him and said angrily, "Hurry up and find him for us." "How do we find him?" "Look back. Could he have gotten off the palanquin when we entered the city? Let's go back and ask." As Luo Fei spoke, he hurriedly ran back. The others followed him and asked passers-by if they had seen the man and the beast. At the same time, the red-robed Fingzhou stood at the entrance of the Luo clan with Tun Yun in his arms. He could not help but smile when he saw the door open. An old man walked in and looked at Fingzhou with a smile. "May I ask if young master is looking for my young master?" "I'm looking for your master," Fingzhou said. "Young master, please follow me." The old man smiled and invited Fingzhou in, saying, "Our young master said that he had a friend coming today, so this old servant thought that you were our young master's friend." "Yes, I just saw your young master. He went out of the city to pick us up. However, I think he's still behind. He should be back in a while." Fingzhou chuckled as he strolled in leisurely. He stroked Tun Yun's soft fur with one hand. "Our master and madam heard that young master's friend was coming and specially waited at home. They were afraid that young master wouldn't be able to greet them. When master and madam see young master, they will be very happy." The housekeeper brought Fingzhou to the front hall and said, "Young master, please wait for a moment. This old servant will go invite our master and madam." "All right." She nodded and sat down in the hall. The old man hurriedly left to report. Not long after, Patriarch Luo and Madame Luo arrived together. When they saw the red figure sitting in the hall, their eyes lit up and they couldn't help but praise her in their hearts. Chapter 1043. While the two people were sizing up Fingzhou, Fingzhou also looked back at the two people, and when the two people came in, she also stood up and slightly nodded to the two people. "Luo clan head, Madame Luo." "Ha ha ha, this young master, please sit down." The more Luo clan head looked at him, the more satisfied he was, thinking that his son's friend was really outstanding, compared to his son, he did not know how many times. He saw that he was wearing a red robe, dazzling like fire, with infinite magnificence. The young man was wearing a red robe that was wantonly showing off, that kind of noble aura that came from his bones and that kind of demonic temperament mixed with each other, coupled with that handsome and outstanding face. It was really amazing at first glance. One could tell that he came from an excellent clan, and had received excellent training, to have such a demeanor and temperament. "I don't know how to address young master," Luo clan head asked with a smile, looking at the young man in red sitting below. "My surname is Feng, my name is Zhou, Luo clan head can call me Fingzhou." "Then you must be the friend that Fei mentioned." Madame Luo gently smiled, and said, "Fei told us this morning that a friend was coming. We have been preparing since this morning, for fear of neglecting the guest. Young Master Feng, since you have come, you must stay here for a few more days." Then, as if thinking of something, Madame Luo said, "Oh right, is young Master Feng also a student of a 2-star academy? I did not expect that my Fei would be able to make such an outstanding friend like young Master Feng." Hearing this, Fingzhou smiled and said, "The two of you misunderstood, I am not a student of a 2-star academy. While speaking, she took out the identity jade card of a 2-star academy teacher and handed it over. I am a teacher of a 2-star academy. The dean handed over Luo Fei and the other 3 students to me, therefore, I came here to take them away. Teacher. The husband and wife were very surprised, such a young teacher. Taking a look at the jade card, they found that she really was a teacher of a 2-star academy. Perhaps it was because the Luo family had yet to spread the portrait of the ghost doctor, therefore, even the Luo family head did not know that this red-clothed youth in front of him was the renowned ghost doctor of various countries. In addition, now that he had seen his identity jade token, he would not think too much about it. Yes, Luo Fei told the 2 of you. It should be us. Other than me, there are 3 other students from the same academy who came with me this time. Speaking of this, the corners of her lips curled up into a smile. But I reckon that they're still outside. Perhaps they'll be back in a while. I see. The husband and wife looked at each other and smiled. After knowing what had happened, they chatted with Fengjiu in the hall while waiting for them to return. However, this wait actually lasted for more than 2 hours. It was only when the sky outside had darkened that they saw the steward quickly walk in to report. Master, Madam, young master and the others have returned. As soon as the housekeeper finished speaking, a figure walked in, panting heavily. When he saw the red-clothed youth sitting inside and chatting with his parents with a happy smile, the anger he had suppressed all the way couldn't help but erupt. The moment he stepped into the hall, he angrily shouted. Surnamed Feng. Why are you here?